I want to thank you all for being here today and welcome you all to our Invest Southwest final community kickoff. We are so incredibly excited about the enthusiasm for the Invest Southwest program, and we want you to know we're not starting from the beginning here. We're going to focus investment on the south and west side, and we want to build upon the plans that you all have done tirelessly over the past few years, and you've seen that in our planning activities around this venue. We have a commitment from this mayor to convene all city departments, the private sector and the philanthropic sector to work on this initiative. We want to make your plans a reality. So today, we're here to hear from you on your priorities and what you want to see in your communities. Now, before we bring on the rest of our program, I want to stress the importance of the 2020 census. Chicago depends on resources for an accurate count. In fact, it's about $1,400 per person per year for 10 years that we won't get if we cannot count all of our residents. So Chicago depends on these resources. And we know there's too many people out there who don't want us to be accurately counted. So we are committed to having all Chicagoans be counted, regardless of race, regardless of age, regardless of citizenship status. Everyone here can help us get an accurate count. You'll get something in the mail on April 1st. We encourage you to fill that out. And this year, for the first time ever, the census is entirely online as well. So you can go to census2020.chicago.gov to participate in the census. Thank you for coming out today. And I'd like to introduce your alderman, someone who has worked significantly to make centers like this possible, and that's Alderman Anthony Beale. Alderman, will you come up?
Good evening. Come on, Ninth Ward, we can do better than that. Good evening. It is a great day in the Ninth Ward. First of all, I want to welcome everybody to the new Pullman Community Center. If this is your first time here, we're open for business. We want the community to come out and enjoy this wonderful facility. And let me just say, with all the things that we have done here in the Ninth Ward, we are extremely excited to have the mayor here to announce what's going on with the Invest Southwest. Let's give the mayor a round of applause. Let me just say, when we got started with the renaissance that's going on here in the Ninth Ward, we started out with nothing. We started out with flat land. But when you look at the accomplishments that we have today, we have over $435 million in public-private investment in the Ninth Ward. When you look at, come on, give it up. When you look at the Walmart was the first step to be able to start getting jobs and development in our community. Now we have Ross, we have Planet Fitness, we have Method, we have Gotham Greens, the largest indoor greenhouse in the world. And we have another greenhouse that we just opened up last month, which is the largest. So now we have the first and the second largest greenhouse growing fresh produce right here in our community. And you remember, we have but we also have Whole Food Distribution Center that brought over 400 jobs in our community. So we're extremely excited that this renaissance is still going on here in the Ninth Ward. And I'm even more excited to know that we have a partner. The mayor is bringing the Invest Southwest to our community so we can do more and continue this renaissance here in the Ninth Ward. So we're going to keep this train moving. We're going to continue to create jobs and opportunity in our community, because we know if we create jobs, crime will continue to drop. Crime is down over 54% in the Ninth Ward because we've been able to create jobs and opportunity. So we want to keep it going, and we're going to keep it going with Invest Southwest here in our community. So with further ado, I want to announce the executive director for this wonderful facility. If you don't know her, you need to get to know her, because she's the one that's making this place run as efficiently as possible. Let's give it up for the Pullman Community Center Executive Director, Kristin Curtis.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So welcome to the Pullman Community Center, and welcome back to those of you who have been here before. As Alderman Beale stated, we opened a little over a year ago on November 8th, 2018, and I want to thank him and some other members of the Roseland Little League that back in 2005 had the vision to build this facility. And so 13 years later, $18 million later, it came to fruition. And we've had thousands of people that have enjoyed the facility since we've opened. You're coming in the midst of our Feel Good Fridays, and what that is we usually have line dancing, which you guys will be able to experience a little bit later. We have some basketball leagues going on, volleyball, adults, we play cards, just have a good time. We also have our facility is available for birthday parties, rentals, family reunions. Yes, I'm giving a plug. So we're here for the whole community. Our seniors come in on Tuesdays. They usually play pickleball on Tuesdays at 10:30, and we try to make everything cost effective, so most things don't cost more than $5. So please come back and visit us. We're a resource here for you. We want you to always get clean and friendly service, and we want to welcome you on back. I want to introduce Andrea Reed, who is the Executive Director of the Greater Roseland Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, everyone. I like that applause you guys gave me. So as you know, I'm Andrea Reed, Executive Director for the Greater Roseland Chamber. Roseland has been underserved and overlooked for many years. I am delighted that through Invest Southwest and the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, we have an awesome opportunity to transform our community. Keeping in mind, there is no amount of money that can correct all of our challenges, but certainly new sources of funding will help to put our community on an upward trajectory. The Greater Roseland Chamber of Commerce is a neighborhood business development center, and we are a local resource for your business. Please stop by our table and let's get connected to work together for a better Roseland community. Thank you. Without further ado, it is now my honor to welcome to the stage the woman who has put her entire heart and soul into this effort, the mayor of the city, Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's really gratifying to be with you here tonight. First, I want to thank Ms. Reed for that lovely introduction and for her leadership on the chamber and everything that you do. I want to thank Alderman Beale, who has put his heart and soul into this community and deserves our support. I want to also recognize Representative Nick Smith, who is here. Nick? And I want to call out David Doig, who has done so much to also uplift this neighborhood. And I've got to thank the members of my team, Deputy Mayor Samir Mayekar, who worked tirelessly from day one of our administration when we started talking about we have to make sure that we bring investment to the south side and the west side. We cannot continue to leave them behind. Samir Mayekar has led this charge. And I've got to thank also our incredible Commissioner of Planning and Development, Maurice Cox, and his entire team. One of the reasons why we were so interested in bringing Commissioner Cox to Chicago is because of the neighborhood work that he was doing in Detroit. No city can be vibrant. No city can be vibrant if our neighborhoods are dying, if our neighborhoods are disinvested in. He understands that, and I'm excited about the possibilities for this initiative and others under his leadership. But of course, none of this happens without you, without the people on the ground in neighborhoods. Part of the beauty of Invest Southwest is that we're not starting with a blank piece of paper. What we are doing intentionally is going into neighborhoods where we've got neighborhood stakeholders, where there's infrastructure, and where there's energy from the people on the ground who want to see their community change and transform, but in the right ways, and doing it in a way that is respectful of the people who are on the ground in communities. And I will say that when we were thinking about which neighborhoods where we would start, I made sure personally to add Roseland and Pullman, because I've been down here. I know there are tremendous people that live in both of these communities, but what you have needed is somebody in City Hall who's going to be your advocate, and I am that person. Now, over the past few weeks, we've had 1,500 people participate in gatherings like this, Invest Southwest Kickoff events, and that's before tonight. Residents, families, small business owners, and community leaders sharing your needs and what you want to see happening in your communities. You remember I said before, we're not starting with a blank piece of paper. We want to work with you to co-curate the future of your neighborhoods with city and private investment. And that is an essential element of this initiative. It channels investment from across our government, business, philanthropic, and community sectors into the commercial cores of neighborhoods on our south and west sides. Neighborhoods like yours that are brimming with promise and potential, but has suffered through generations of disinvestment and neglect. That ends now. The city alone will channel $750 million over the next 3 years into these 10 commercial corridors. And we've already had partners like BMO Harris and Starbucks each commit an additional $10 million into this initiative. And that was before Fifth Third Bank announced this week another $20 million commitment. And for those in the corporate sector that are listening, we want to grow this fund to over $1 billion of monies available for investment. Think about that, and think about what that money can do to turn around and transform neighborhoods. And it starts right here in communities like this, with events like this. We all know from experience that having the city come down and tell you, we're doing this for you, and we're doing it this way, is absolutely the wrong way to do anything. In order to be successful, where we need to start is to listen to you. We need to work from the ground up and build the plans that you've already got in the works. And one of the people that I know understands and who will live this vision is a man that I'm about to introduce, and that's Commissioner Maurice Cox. For those of you still getting to know him, as I mentioned, Commissioner Cox come to us most recently from Detroit. It is there that he helped lead the transformation and revitalization of that city's neighborhoods. And he did it through listening. During our first conversation, Commissioner Cox brought me a series of neighborhood strategies that he worked on in Detroit. And we talked about what was possible here in our city. Detroit has a lot of similarities to Chicago in some ways. Neighborhoods like Pullman and Roseland that has suffered from disinvestment. And when I asked him how he got so many communities to focus on forward-thinking planning, he told me about his deep, deep commitment to engagement and listening and making sure that whatever we did was actually responsive to the needs of the people on the ground in neighborhoods. Now, this is not going to be a one-size-fits-all. What happens in Roseland and Pullman isn't going to be the same thing that happens in other South Side neighborhoods or other West Side neighborhoods. This is about co-curating your future with us, locked in arm, together, and making sure that we are providing the kind of resources and development that you need here. That is why we've made inclusion and equity central to the values, to everything that we're going to be doing in Chicago. Because creating a more inclusive and equitable city means making it more inclusive and more equitable for our entire city. And this, my friends, is only the beginning. We are bringing an end to investing here and not there, of providing access to opportunities for some but not others, and creating a Chicago where everyone plays a part and has an equal chance to exceed. One of the things that I've been talking a lot about in the last few days, and you'll hear me talk more about it, is we have to create a city where all of our residents have opportunities to lift up themselves and pursue their God-given talent. The city of Chicago has a role and an obligation to play in making sure that we are a convener and facilitating those opportunities so that everyone, and particularly our young people, recognize that the city hears them, that we see you, that we love and support you, and that we want a Chicago where everyone can feel proud, everyone is dealt in, and that you feel a responsibility as a resident because we have provided you with the support and resources that you need to be successful. I'm excited and humbled every single day at the opportunity that exists in our city. We've got great leaders at the local level. We are going to work in partnership with them to build the kind of Chicago that we can all be proud of. We are going to reclaim our narrative and say that in the city of Chicago, everyone has a shot at success. So let me welcome Commissioner Cox to the stage. Thank you so much, everyone.
Right. Wow, this place filled up. I knew we could do it. We could fill this big old facility. Good evening. I am Maurice Cox. You're a new Commissioner of Planning and Development for the City of Chicago. Thank you. And thank you, Mayor, for those incredibly generous words. I want to give you a little glimpse of what it's like to be a part of Mayor Lightfoot's leadership team. So in our leadership team meetings, the mayor she has a talent for asking very direct, blunt questions. So if you bring her an initiative like Invest Southwest, she will ask you, is this going to be transformational? Is this going to be a game changer? And I can't tell you what it means to have someone who repeatedly asks you if this is going to be transformational. And if it's not good enough for Chicago. And it means a lot to us, and it's so important, and I thank you for giving your leadership team the space to take risks, to be aspirational, because that's what change looks like. And so I'm going to ask that all of you tonight with us to please be bold for Pullman and Roseland. Please be excited for the future of these incredible communities, because Invest Southwest is going to lay that foundation. So thank you, Mayor. So I also just want to make sure I know who's in the house. Is Roseland in the house? Can we hear it? Okay. And what about Pullman? Is Pullman here? Okay, all right. So what about like the 9th Ward? Are you in the House? Okay. I love it. Thank you, Alderman Beale, for your generosity. I have toured much of your ward together with your alderman, and I think you have a fantastic alderman who's been really, really fighting for you, and we're just thrilled to be in your community. Thank you. So I have the task of trying to share with you in detail what Invest Southwest is and the foundation that we're laying here today. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. Let's see if I can make this work. Okay. So when the mayor was touring throughout all of Chicago, she got a chance to see what investment across this entire city looked like. And one of the things I think that she often talks about was the inequity that she saw. She saw investment in the South Side and the West Side, but it looked very different than the investment that she saw in the North Side. The investment that was on exhibit in the North Side, the public investment was used to leverage private investment. So there was a multiplier there. And she is very fond of saying, we can change that equation. We can change that equation. We can make that initial public investment and watch it multiply into private investment. And what we're trying to do is something that has been developing over 50 years. So if you look at these two maps, and you look at the map from 1970, you'll see that dark blue sliver along the lake. Those were the most affluent communities in Chicago. And that cream color and salmon color, that was largely the middle class. So that was 50 years ago. And if you look at the map in 2017, you can see how that blue has expanded in the north pretty exclusively. And that dark orange that you see, those are areas of poverty that are growing and growing. And they're on the south side and on the west side of Chicago. And so I contend that that map was intentional. That is a product of public policy. And if public policy, we just have to own that. But if public policy created that map, I can assure you that we can make a better map, and that's what we're here to do today. So the other result that you've seen is while Chicago has grown really into a global city, it is a city that is often compared to New York and to LA. But if you look at this graph, you'll see that those two cities are growing, and Chicago is the only global city in America that is not growing. So there's something wrong here, and I think a lot of you know thousands of African Americans are leaving Chicago. They're leaving Chicago. And I know you know the reason why. It has everything to do with the streets that we shop in, the schools that our children are educated in, the parks where they play, the jobs that have left this community. So yes, thousands have left. But I also would argue that hundreds of thousands have stayed. And the work that we are doing are for those of you who stayed and who are planning to stay. And I, have gone through this community and saw amazing assets. Being the steward of these incredible facilities like the Porter Museum, or entrepreneurs who are opening locally owned and locally serving businesses so families can have a sit-down meal in a vegan soul food restaurant, recently opened up in your food hall. families that are trying to create that businesses that, again, employ locally and just give people the options and the quality of life that our neighborhoods deserve. And people who are willing and ready to roll up their sleeves and plan to stay in the communities that they love. And we just value this part of the work because we're going to allow you to guide this process of how and where investment is done. So we're here, as the mayor said, to collect your ideas, to listen to your thoughts, and let that work not just be a plan, but move into action. And so all of the work that we're doing today takes partnerships. You have the mayor's commitment, you have your alderman's commitment, Alderman Austin, their communities are going to be impacted by this, but most importantly, you are part of this partnership. And so how we decided to start were to identify 10 neighborhoods that we think were ready, that had already done their work of planning, and they were ready to actually implement. And your Roseland and Pullman are the last in these 10 that we've celebrated, but it's really important that your neighbors understand that these are the first 10, but then we're going to add 10 more, and we're going to add 10 more until we have covered the entire south side and west side of this city. So a lot of times people talk about all of the deficits, all of the things that are wrong with our communities, but we decided to kind of flip that script and instead talk about the strengths and why we are starting here. And there are amazing reasons why. One, as the mayor alluded to, you've done plans and more plans. And we have sifted through those plans, but that work was vitally important because that means that we are ready to move into action. You're blessed with incredible transit that we can build from, and you can bring people home and to their places of work. You have an amazing array of iconic neighborhood assets that we want to continue to invest in. And you have commerce. You have a collection of businesses that are already here that we can build from. And so these are some of the strengths that we want to hold up as we create these corridor districts in your community. And so as I've gone through Chicago and my kind of listening tour and observation tour, I've noticed very, very stark differences in the public realm. So you have areas like Hyde Park, or you have areas that like Fulton, and you could see the public realm in those photographs, the big wide sidewalks, the tree-lined streets, the stores, both local and national, buildings being rehabbed. But then you can look on the other side of this slide and you'll see South Michigan, and you'll see buildings, the fabric is there, the context is there, but look at how they're shuttered. Look at how the commerce is not very, very good, but there is something there that we can work with, that we can build from, and we are going to restore these environments for you. It's coming. So here are the 4 things that we're trying to do with this effort. We want to amplify the local assets. These are fiercely local strategies for the resources that folks have in their community. We want to focus those public investments in a way that they are catalytic. So a branch library need and the senior housing need, we can bring those things together and have a more catalytic impact. We want to drive the private investment in a way that supports local priorities. And so this means local ownership, local investment with dollars that stay in the local community. And then with public safety, we want to really try to integrate some new strategies for how we create public safety. And so these are examples done by Studio Gang that says if you put a police station, you put a fire station, could you also pair it with other community serving functions so that they literally become a community center in themselves? And then the big issue is we want to go big with the investment with $750 million targeted for those 10 neighborhoods that will serve as a catalyst to leverage private investment. And so the mayor asks all of our divisions to scrub our budgets and look for those resources that can be marshaled and coordinated together. So within the planning department alone, $250 million that are unallocated, they are new dollars that will go into this investment, are going to start to fuel some of the efforts that you prioritize. So how are we going to do it? Well, I've had to rethink the planning department to truly create a neighborhood serving planning department. And we've created districts, 7 districts throughout the city. So each district will have its own planning team. There will be a group of planners, some of them are here tonight, who will work on the far south side exclusively, who will be in the communities that they serve, making connections between resources and people who have ideas. This is a whole new model to make sure that we have equitable planning throughout the entire city. So what's in our tool case, our toolkit? There are 4 areas where we think we can have a significant impact. One is this incredible building stock that you have. So this is Roseland. These are beautiful, beautiful buildings that really deserve the level of targeted investment. There should be stores in every single one of those storefronts of folks who live and work and hire in this community. And you just go through these commercial districts and you see this quality of buildings. We can open up those top floors and get housing there again, and we can get that storefront open with a local business. This is the work that we'll be doing over the coming months. So the other part of this is we know how to do this. This building, beautiful building, they bricked over the storefront, they put a parking garage in front, but this is that building today. People living above the shop, housing below. Roseland Pullman has the same building stock as these buildings here. And so this is part of the work that you're going to start to see. The other is transportation. And the mayor recently announced the appointment of Gia Biaggi as your new commissioner of transportation, and she is bringing a level of energy to CDOT that will be visible to you on the streets, in the alleys, in the lighting, in the public realm. So I am thrilled to have her as a partner, but the transportation starts with the pedestrian. And so as I've looked at what the state of the public realm is, I've seen the differences that are made between sometimes our surrounding counties, like Oak Park. If you look at that street, that's the same Chicago Avenue. Oak Park has got trees lined, wide sidewalks, pavers, and then when you look at the Chicago Avenue side of Chicago, look at that. See, I find this to be unacceptable, and I think we can change that. But with these transportation projects, it often takes a while. So we want to be very, very intentional to show residents that we can change the quality of the pedestrian environment now, this year. So we're going to be taking a more tactical approach, testing out some ideas, talking to you about the safety of the pedestrian just crossing the street, creating places where cultural programming can happen, and then we'll test these ideas. If they work, we'll make them permanent. If they don't, no sweat, we can take them up. So we're going to try to be really strategic about how we test these ideas before we make the long-term commitments. And then the vacant lots. You know, we're going to have to wait for a lot of those vacant lots to be filled. So in the meantime, can we just make them beautiful? So these vacant lots can do a whole lot more for us now. They can be examples of managing stormwater. They can create physical beauty. So we're going to be identifying lots along these corridors that we can that can contribute to the comeback of the corridors. And sometimes it's as simple as planting trees that actually allow young people to become stewards of the landscapes in their neighborhood. So they become the green collar workforce. We're going to be trying out these ideas in real time and testing so that the corridors look beautiful even before the buildings come. And then public art and programming. I think this is vitally important. There are amazing artists in the South Side of Chicago, and we want to give them space to do their thing, and take even things like a viaduct and turn it into a gateway, a place that literally welcomes you into a neighborhood, or using the entire building as a canvas to create kind of visual interest and really make a signature that is unique to that neighborhood. So we're going to create this creative part of the work, and then set the stage for cultural programming again. So many of our communities were rich in programs, festivals, so we want to create places again, and we have a partnership with DCASE that is declaring this year the Chicago Year of Music, but we want to give them places in the community to perform and delight us. And then, shout out for DCASE for sure. They do a beautiful job. And so the last piece of this strategy is about local shopping. We feel you should be able to get all of the services you need in your daily goings in the community where you live. And it's so important. It's so important that it is local, fiercely local, locally owned, hiring locally, and providing this service locally. So we're going to lift up those entrepreneurs who want to open a business, who want to fill those storefronts, and we've got the means to do it. I've just seen more and more of this. This is a shout out again for David Durk and the work that he's done with the food hall. These are the entrepreneurs that we want to support. By the way, Ms. Leach is providing all of the food tonight that you will enjoy after this presentation. A shout out. And how we're going to do it is through the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. So some of you have heard of this program. We were celebrating Mr. Williams and the opening up of a gallery just last week. We have dedicated $30 million that will be targeted to businesses throughout the community that will come and work and do their thing on these corridors or in the neighborhood areas. The program was rebooted, new and improved in January. There is a workshop on the 6th of February. These grants will go as high as $250,000. And we will have workshops and folks who guide those entrepreneurs through the process. And so, what are we doing tonight? The next steps, what we need from you. So we're here to listen to you, to collect your ideas. There are a group of planners that are stationed throughout this space who are trying to understand whether we've gotten the priorities right, whether we're on the right street. We need to hear from you. We gathered those notes. We gathered hundreds and hundreds of comment cards. We go back to the shop and we prioritize them. And when we do that work, we're going to come back in the subsequent months and check in to see if we're on the right track as you begin to see those plans spring into action. So we really need to capture your input tonight. So it's important to know we're here, we've gathered groups, neighborhoods together, but when we come back in February, we're going to be in Pullman, and then we're going to be in Roseland, and we're going to go to each one of those communities and work with the community partners that are there on the ground to help us implement the work. And then you're going to start to see evidence of the change already in the spring and in the summer. And then the more challenging things that require longer development times, you're going to see those announcements happening in the fall. And we're going to be breaking some ground on the first projects that you prioritize that are ready to go. So that's kind of what you can anticipate. We're going to keep folks engaged deeply throughout the entire process, and we're designing a way to make that easy for people to access us. Your planners will be on the ground working with you. And so I am excited about this type of planning that starts with people and keep you engaged so that you can plan to say. I am supposed to allow my partner to walk you through a little bit of what's happening here, but this isn't Best Southwest. It's your work, and I'm so excited to be doing it with you and going down this journey. So thank you all. Thank you all.